Okay.
You guys all.
All right. So I'm gonna fit. Wait, we need Justin's. Do we have Justin?
This is Justin. Good morning.
Okay. Hey, Justin.
Good morning.
Do we need our counselor, or are we good?
That was Justin. Oh, there's Justin Nader. So it looks like we got everybody now. Justin
Okay.
signing on.
I gotta jump onto this planning board hearing. You join in this one or no? No, you don't have to. It's really if you feel like you want to.
Sumit, you're on. Sumit, we can hear you.
Yeah, so Sumit is on just in case you have questions for Hoboken Brownstone at that point. Chris Stevens is on, although his camera's not on yet. And he's the one we're gonna need. Chris, are you there?
Yep. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Okay. So we're not gonna have your presence by video, huh? Whatever, doesn't matter.
I'm on via phone because last time we had video problems. So.
Okay, so it is 9 o'clock, Andy, and we have a full contingent of board members and our council as well.
Okay. As such, I'm going to call the May 1st, 2020 LDC board meeting to adjournment or to into session. Excuse me.
This is actually Andy.
Fastest
Andy, you're
meeting
calling the
ever.
Audit and Finance Committee. This is the Audit and Finance Committee.
I'm trying. Well, hey, first of all, I'd like to welcome Justin Nadeau to the team. So thank you
How you
very
doing,
much.
everybody? I appreciate everyone understanding the chaos over here. It's been some interesting times, and but I do appreciate everything, and I'm glad to be here.
Welcome aboard.
And I'll just add in, Justin's at what was NYBDC in his pursuit, and obviously he's swamped with the stimulus coming out again on Monday, and working on all of their loans, which I'm sure they have issues with their large portfolio. So thanks for taking the time out to be with us, Justin.
Of course.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of January 17, 2020. Any comments, discussion on
Andy,
those
I
minutes?
just want to make sure. Andy, I just want to make sure you called the Audit and Finance. We're doing the Audit and Finance Committee meeting first, right? You have that?
I had that as the 9th item. Did that get changed?
Well, I'm sorry. So the one thing I didn't say, so first we're doing the Audit and Finance Committee meeting, which is just the minutes, the presentation, and then the adjournment. I'm sorry, you must not have that.
I don't have.
And then
sorry.
we're going into the floor.
Okay, fair enough. With that, I'll have Mary Ellen take the floor.
So, actually, tell you what, I'll do this for you since I have the agenda here.
Thank you.
So the first item is the approval of the minutes of the January 17th, 2020 Audit and Finance Committee.
Okay.
I make a motion.
Is there any discussions on it? Go ahead, Mary Ellen.
And it's available on the handouts, but okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the minutes are adopted, and now we're going to go to Chris Stevens from Wojcicki and Company for presentation, the audit. And the documents are available as the handouts. You see them there. There's
Just
the handouts. Ken?
to the chair, point of order. I just want to make sure I have the right agenda right now. So I'm using the TLDC May 1st, 2020 .pdf agenda that Danae sent out yesterday. Is that correct?
He's
For
Ken, on the right-hand side of your screen, on where your control panel is, there's some handouts there.
So you're
Very
looking at the
bottom,
first
right?
one, which is TLDC Audit and Finance, May. And so this
Okay,
is just
'cause
the Audit and
yesterday
Finance
Danae
Committee,
sent
and then
out-
the other one.
Yeah, yesterday, I'm using the PDF that Danae attached to the most recent email that she sent with the agenda.
That is for the full board. Yeah, that's the full meeting that will be after this meeting. This meeting has 3 items. The Audit and Finance Committee meeting has, and again, it's one of the handouts there, the first one. It has the minutes, which we've done, the audit presentation, and then the adjournment, and then we'll get into that one that you have. Sorry for the confusion on that.
Okay, yep, I got it. I got it.
Yeah, I didn't go
Thank
down either, far enough either. Thank you. So we're at the minutes have been approved. We're at the presentation right now, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're at the presentation. So Chris, you're there?
Yes, all right. Good morning, everyone. You should have two different documents that we provided. One says report to the board. Another one says has entitled financial statements. I'll actually start with the ones that says report to the board first. This is generally a required communication that we're required to issue at the end of an audit. This summarizes significant findings of the audit itself. Start on the third paragraph down, qualitative aspects of accounting practices. Management is responsible for the accounting policies used by the organization. Those accounting policies are described in Note 8 of the financial statements. There was one change in the current year as the organization had to adopt Government Audit and Standards Statement number 88, which related to disclosures related to debt, including direct borrowings and direct placements. It was adopted retrospectively in the current year, so it was adopted for both years. However, it did not require any reclassifications or restatements of debt position at the end of the year. Essentially, it was a presentation-based statement. Didn't change the way you accounted for debt itself. We noted no transactions entered into by the entity that lacked authoritative guidance or consensus, and all significant transactions were recorded in the proper period. We'd also like to point out that embedded in all financial statements are estimates. Estimates are a significant part of all financial statements. Part of our audit is we do have to consider those estimates given the circumstances to determine whether they're reasonable. And we did audit the estimates in the financial statements and do consider them reasonable. We do highlight a few of them here that are significant to the financial statements, just so you're aware of them. The first one is management's estimate of the allowance for uncollectible loans. It's based on the management's evaluation of the collectibility and of the outstanding receivables, and includes historical loss experience and the current economic conditions. Management's estimate of depreciable lives and estimated residual value of the capital assets. It's based on the length of time you expect to receive benefit from those assets, and it's estimated on a straight line basis. And management estimates of the gain on the satisfaction of the environmental remediation liability was based on third-party analysis and final cost estimates. As I said before, we did consider the key factors and assumptions related to those estimates, and we consider them fairly stated in relation to the financial statements. Certain financial statement disclosures are also sensitive because of the nature of what they disclose. A couple of them here we'd like to highlight. The disclosure of the carrying value of the land held for development. That's mainly the King's Fuel sites and the Alamo site are sensitive because it's possible that the value of the land may not be recoverable when you come to sell it. The disclosure of the environmental remediation liability is still disclosed in the financial statements, even though the surface level asbestos remediation has been completed, because the overall remediation project is still ongoing with the land, and as a landowner, you're responsible for overseeing that. That could be significant if future things come up to find other issues that might need to be addressed by the entity. We do find that the financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. We did not encounter any significant difficulties during the audit. Professional standards do require us to accumulate all known and likely misstatements identified during the audit and communicate those to you unless they're clearly immaterial. All misstatements have been corrected by management, and we do list here the three largest significant adjustments we proposed. Adjustment to reclassify the cost of renting the fence around the Kingsfield property to prepaid expenses from fixed assets. There's an adjustment to reclassify part of the remediation costs that were expensed from operating expenses to a reduction of the liability, and therefore a reduction of the gain on the. And then we also adjustment to recognize revenue and expenses related to several grants that you received at the end of the year that we're going to pass through the city of Troy. Those are specifically related to the playground at the Ingalls Park area.
Hey, Chris, can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
So I'm just, I'm trying, like, I don't know what you're reading from, and so I want to be following along. I did download the TLDC Audit and Finance Committee meeting agenda, but then the minutes are for the IDA, and then that's all I see. I'm just confused about what documentation we have here. And I can't follow, in other words, what you're talking about right now, I don't have anything to follow. I don't know if anyone else does.
I've got mine printed out. You know, I saw that.
Do you see what I'm talking about? The documents that are
Yeah,
posted.
I see the minutes there. I had.
Yeah. So the document that's titled TLDC Audit and Finance Agenda, it starts with a local development corporation page, but then the second page is the IDA, and the people that were present and absent in that meeting are not our board. I think they're the IDA board.
Yeah,
So I think that's,
you know, I saw that this morning, but I thought that was me shuffling my papers wrong. So I tossed it out because I had the,
Can you upload the files to the thing so they can see them?
Danae, can you get those? She's working on it. Sorry.
and then Chris, right now, what are you reading from something that we as board members should have access to, or are you reading from something that we do not have?
It would be something that you.
Sorry, you should have received a previous email from Danae recently.
Hey, Ken.
Yeah.
Ken, if you go to the August or the April 27th email from Danae, it's on there. I had to look at the date and I had to unmute myself.
Okay, hang on.
Hey, this is Justin Miller. I just flipped it to you, Ken. It should be at the top of your inbox.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just go right there then.
Thanks.
You are right. Danae just needs to drop in the LDC's audit and finance minutes as opposed to the IDA.
Yep, she's putting those in. And I thought that was a shuffling error on my part when I was looking through them last night.
Okay, so Justin, of the three attachments then, right now Chris is using the one that's TLDC 2019 draft AFS?
I believe that's what he's walking through for assets and liabilities, yep.
Yeah.
It should be I'm actually looking at the one that should say report to the board.
Oh, okay, that's the other one here. Yep, got it.
Yeah.
All right, I've loaded all of them, so I think now it should be okay.
Okay. We're currently on page 2 of that document. Next section, down on disagreements with management. We're happy to report we didn't have any disagreements with management related to financial reporting or accounting matters, auditing matters. We have requested that management provide us a management representation letter. Essentially, that letter says that they provided us all the information we requested. All that information was complete and accurate, and they responded to all our questions accurately as well. Management consultation with other independent accountants. If we'd had a disagreement with accounting matters or some other reason or anything like that, under professional standards, we're required to be contacted by another firm if they reach out to another firm. And if that happens, we're required to communicate that to you. We're not aware of any consultation with other accounting firms. One other thing I'd just like to point out is that under government accounting standards requirements, financial statements usually have what's called a management's discussion analysis attached to them for governments. The LDC does not have that. That is something that, even if it was attached, we wouldn't audit or issue an opinion on anyway, so the lack of it being there doesn't impact our audit opinion on the financial statements. But we do like to point out that it is, well, technically it's required by GASB. Small organizations like the LDC generally often don't include it, but you should be aware of it as it's not there. Other than that, that is the report to the board. Are there any other questions on that?
None for me. Anybody else?
All right.
We need a motion to accept the report.
I'm going to go over the financial statements next, and then we can accept them all at once.
Okay.
So we'll go to the next document you should have, which should be labeled the financial statements. We'll start on page 1 of that report. Page 1 and 2 represent our independent auditor's report on the financial statements. The report breaks down management's responsibility, our responsibility under the audit. Management is responsible for the financial statements and as well as generated a system of internal controls to ensure the financial statements are fairly stated. Our responsibility under the auditors is to plan and perform our audit to allow us to express an opinion on those financial statements. On the top of page 2 is our opinion. It states that we believe the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. This is what we call an unmodified or a clean opinion, essentially the highest level of assurance you can get on an audit. Other matters required supplementary information. We do have to report that the management discussion analysis is not included in the financial statements. However, the absence of that doesn't impact our audit on the financial statements. And the last paragraph refers to a report under government auditing standards. We will address that report at the end of the, when we get to it at the end of the financial statements. Page 3, the statement of that position. This is essentially the balance sheet of the organization. It shows it comparatively year over year. This is a snapshot of the assets and liabilities and the net position of the organization at 12/31/2019. Year over year, there are some things that jump out at you. You guys should be aware of. You have a significant amount of grants receivable at the end of the year. Those amounts represent amounts receivable from the 3 grants from that related to the playground, and also the National Grid grant to assist with the cleanup of the Kingsfield site. That was about $116,000. I believe that was received after year end. Loans receivable year over year went down. You didn't really issue any significant new loans in the prior year, but you did have repayment on a lot of your loans. Prepaid interest went down. That was related to the refunding of the advance payments you've made on the loan to the city of Troy. They would actually return those to you in the current year, so the prepaid interest amount went away as well. Total, your loan payable actually went up year over year, despite the fact you have made your annual payments that are required, and that's again related to the city returning those prepaid loan funds in the, from prior years. You do have grants payable of $75,000 in the current year you haven't had in the past, and again, those are the loans, the grants from for the playground that are going to pass through the LDC to the city of Troy. So year over year, that's your statement in that position. Page 4 is a statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in that position. Shows total revenue by source in the current year, total expenses, and brings it down to your actual change in that position, which would be equivalent to net income for a for-profit entity. Again, there's some things that jump out at here year over year. The first one is grant income. You had significant grant income in the current year that you haven't had in the past. Most of that is made up of grants from the IDA, the CRC, and National Grid to help offset the cost of the Kingsfield cleanup project. You also administrative fees in the current year. You did receive some administrative fees from the IDA related to an IDA project that closed in 2019 that you have a share that you split the fees with. Rental income went down a little bit, and that was related to the Hudson River recycling company that used to be on the Alamo site that is no longer there in the current year. Expenses year over year are pretty consistent, no big fluctuations there. Down in non-operating income and expense, you did have a gain on satisfaction of the environmental remediation obligation of $479,000. That gain is because the original liability for that project was recorded at $965,000, and your total expenditures came in well under that. So now that the project is done, the liability has been removed from the balance sheet, and the difference is recorded as a gain here on this statement. The pass-through grant and income expenses, those are new in the current year, and those are related to the grants you're receiving for the playground. You have to record the revenue and the expense as pass-through items. Those are recorded there. So year over year, you saw a change in net position, or your net position increased by $961,000. Page 5 is statement of cash flows. So the sources and uses of cash in the current year. So you're able to see that you're able to provide, generate about $9,000 in cash in the current year from operating activities. You also generated another $38,000 from financing activities. Most of that is related to the transfer of the loan funds back from the City of Troy to the LDC in the current year. So you saw a total increase in cash year over year of just under $50,000. Starting on page 6 through page 8, these are the accounting policies of the organization. You did adopt a new accounting standard in the current year, but it didn't really have an impact on your accounting policies. Those didn't really change year over year, and those are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. On page 8, you see we referenced the new accounting pronouncement adopted. GASB 88 was adopted in the current year, and that meant that the purpose of that statement is to improve the information that's disclosed in government financial statements related to debt in the current year. So there was a little bit of additional information that was disclosed in the current year, but it didn't change the way you account for debt in any way. This was adopted retrospectively, which means it was adopted to the previous reported years as well, but it didn't have a material impact on the financial statements and didn't require any restatement of that position. Note B to the financial statements is just general disclosure of your cash equivalents and your investment policies. Note C breaks down your loans receivable year over year. Started the year with about $104,000 and ended the year with about $104,000 of outstanding loans. You do have a reserve for unallowable accounts of about $31,000. This just brings the net amount you expect to receive of about $73,000 at the end of the year. Note D, capital assets, just breaks down the capital assets and the activity you have during the current year. The only activity is related to depreciation expense in the current year. Note E on page 10 just breaks down the land you have for development, which is the King Fuel site and the Alamo site. Both those, there have been no changes in those in the current year. Note F is your required disclosures related to your loan payables. Note G, the rental income disclosure just describes that you do rent out some of your space and buildings you have, and then provides an estimate of the rent you're expected to receive over the terms of those leases. Note H, commitments and contingencies, just describes the continuing ongoing process of cleaning up the King's Fuel site. And then note I describes the related party transactions you have, specifically with the City of Troy and your related entities, the IDA and the CRC. Starting on page 14 is the Government Auditing Standards Report I referenced before. This report is required when we do an audit in accordance with government auditing standards. Purpose of this report is it explains our consideration of your internal controls and whether we had any findings related to those. Our consideration of your internal controls is we look at gaining an understanding of your internal controls that allows us to plan and perform our audit. We're not testing your internal controls to issue an opinion on them. However, if we become aware of any deficiency in internal controls that we consider as significant or material, we're required to disclose that to you here. We're happy to report we have no internal control findings to report in accordance with government auditing standards. We're also, under government auditing standards, required to consider your compliance with laws and regulations that could have a material impact on the financial statements. If we did find any non-compliance, we're required to report that here as well. And we're happy to report that we did not find any issues in non-compliance that we consider to be material to the financial statements. So that is the Government Audit Standards Report and the financial statements themselves. Are there any questions?
Anybody have questions? Nope, okay. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thanks, Chris, appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. No problem.
So if there's no questions, we need, looking for something from the, blah, blah. Having a trouble this morning here. Looking for a motion for the board to accept the report as submitted.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Accepted. Very good. Looking for a motion to adjourn our audit and finance meeting.
Steve will move that.
Sorry?
I moved it to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll
Very good.
second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. All right. Again, thank you everybody for joining that meeting. As we move on to the Troy LDC May 1st agenda. Again, we're looking for the first item is the approval of minutes of the January 17th board meeting. Any discussion on that?
I'll move it.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All right. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Beautiful. Second item, the One Monument Square LDA. Steve, I'm going to let you take this.
Okay, we are ready to accept the terms of the land development agreement for Monument Square with Hoboken, Brownstone, and the LDA, and the LDC. The city is also a signator on this. They've been involved in this. This has been a long discussion with two lawyers for the city, lawyer for Hoboken, Justin on our behalf, as well as we just ran it by a condominium lawyer to make sure the language was good there in case there are condominium components, not as in a residential condominium, but if you had different ownership of different pieces of property. We don't know yet how this will take shape, but that's why we had it reviewed so that we could allow for that if that was the case. Basically, this is this sets the motion now for Hoboken Brownstone to have the comfort level to start moving forward with the design. It is a 2-year initial term with a 1-year extension, so it matches the option given by the city through the TLDC to Hoboken Brownstone. It's not an option to the local development corporation, and it includes the entire site less 50 feet of river frontage, give or take. It's worded there specifically because it may be a little bit less than 50 feet on the southern end along the river to make an allowance for the shape of the parking garage, and at the northern edge where the site touches Riverfront Park, there is a piece of parkland which is excluded also. The seeker, the quality review has already been performed. We segmented this. It was a legal segmentation because we don't have the project yet. We only have the seeker was on just the option to transfer it. We're stating clearly that this will be reviewed again in the future by most likely the Planning Commission as lead agency once the project is on board. Upon execution, the developer will deposit $50,000 to an escrow account, and that will be used to offset the LDC's costs and the city's costs through this 3-year process, including closing costs for the city. We'll have some legal costs. We will also have some consultant costs associated with determination of the next item, so which I'll get to that. The agreement calls for a $600,000 contribution at a future date after the development has been approved towards a mutually approved public component of this project. And that, so it could be the stairway down, it could be the parking lot if that remains public. So again, we still need to determine that, but it could offset our costs with additional grants. It could just go for the creation of this public space. So that will be mutually agreed on, but it is $600,000 that likely the city or the LDC would have to put up in the future. But it doesn't, this agreement does not commit anybody to funding. It commits us to working through this process with the developer to find additional grant funding that may be needed to make this project. During the design, we will be using the existing Department of State grant, which is with our match about $2.8 million. So a portion of that will be used through the design. At the end of this design, that's for the basically for the supporting structure, most likely the parking garage, the 2 levels there, and the stairway down. So it'll go towards that. I mentioned we're committed to working on additional grant funding, and that at the end, the financing plan that's developed for this will have to be approved by, the LDC, by the city, and the city will also have city council will have final approval of the public components, the roads, what gets maintained, what gets abandoned, what park space, what the park space is used. So that's basically what's laid out here. Again, this sets the motion to move for Hoboken to move forward. We are certainly aware of the fact that we're in a increasingly a lot of unknowns now with financing and with grants that may be out there from the state. So that is the land development agreement, and I'll let Justin walk through just the resolution for this, and then I guess if there's any questions after that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Steve. The resolution that we prepared largely tracks the city council ordinance that was adopted in early December of 2019, within which the city, using the LDC as a development partner and surplus vehicle, provided us with an option to facilitate the project. What we're doing as a board is accepting that option and then memorializing that in the land development agreement, whereby the option is assigned to Hoboken Brownstone Company to undertake the planning, design, engineering of the project itself, along with coordinating with the city and the LDC on the public improvements and the infrastructure improvements that'll go along with the project. So what we're doing is really just acting as a development vehicle and a quarterback, if you will, to assist the project through its development phase, which is planned to be 2 years in the first instance, with an additional year if it's needed. Largely, that additional year is tied to the potential for time needed to sync up with the consolidated funding application process, which is twice a year, so it's hard to gate. We don't know if that our planning will sync up perfectly with a CFA application deadline. We hope it does, but we have the flexibility here to allow all grant sources and third-party funding to be fully investigated and work closely with the city on the overall budget and scope of the project itself. So ultimately, we're approving the acceptance of an option, entering into the LDA. We have escrow funding in place to absorb our working costs during the development period, and we're really just set up to be a partner with the city to develop this site into the highest and best use. As Steve pointed out, we recognize and ratify the city's seeker findings on the option itself, but anticipate the project, once it's fully scoped and developed, will be placed through a more formal and intensive seeker review process through the Planning Commission, most likely. This is all going to circle back to the City Council and a more intensive city review before it's said and done. But this contract will allow us to roll up our sleeves and get going on planning and design. So if there's any questions on the resolution or the motion, or if Steve wants to allow Sunit to speak a little bit about Hoboken, or if anybody has questions, I guess now's the time before the resolution's moved.
Steve, do you want to have Sunit sort of introduce himself and go that way, or?
Sunit, you're on, right? Might take a minute. You might be muted.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Appreciate you guys taking the time. So I'll keep it really brief. I think Steve and Justin did a good job of explaining the LDA. Obviously, we spent a lot of time trying to make sure we covered all the bases. We thought very long and hard about what was necessary from the community's perspective, based on taking feedback from the charrette, feedback that we've gotten over the past 6 to 12 months, and speaking to local stakeholders and community groups. So I think hopefully we have incorporated everything, and really this gets us a good launching pad to get started so that we can get a design in front of the community and then really start hitting the ground and hopefully putting shovels into the ground in the near future. The quick bio, I think you guys have heard this probably enough by now, but quick bio on Hoboken Brownstone. It's a 40-year now running development company. We focus on dense urban development, on a lot of experience doing stuff on the waterfront. Obviously, the company started in Hoboken, focused very heavily now on Jersey City. And I'm partially up here, so I spend a lot of time looking at opportunities in upstate New York, and really Troy has taken my heart, and a lot of what we see in Troy is akin to what we saw, really what the two main partners, George and Danny, saw back in the 80s in Hoboken. So that was really the catalyst to get us excited about this project, as well as a longer term relationship with the city LDC on doing bigger things.
And I do want to add in, it says in the agreement that we may want to connect the sewer through to the adjoining property south of this, which is owned by Judge Development. And that should really not have said may. We do intend, we both, Hoboken and the city and the LDC, recognize that we need to make this connection through the property. So it probably should have been a little more forceful, the language, but again, it's an agreement between us and Hoboken, letting Hoboken know that we may want to, it reserves the right, we do want to. So I just wanted to state that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Samit or anything
I
in
had a
general?
question.
Yes, sir.
So first of all, this is really exciting. We've been anticipating this for a long time now. And I guess as the one member of the LDC that shares a dual role, where I'm on the LDC and the city council, I'll be seeing this from both perspectives. And but in both roles, I'm super excited. I do have a question for you, Justin. The LDA itself, it's 26 pages, and there's a lot of legalese in there. I started, trying to digest it, and then I just couldn't stick with it. So I'm assuming, Justin, that you've reviewed this and that everything is tied up nicely. Is that correct?
Yeah, and to Steve's point, we've been exchanging drafts and iterations of this since probably January. So it's a little refreshing to step back and see it from a little bit of a distance, as opposed to being down in the weeds with it, which I can appreciate looking at it with fresh eyes, that it looks dense and there's a lot to unpack. But largely the more difficult mechanics as you get into it, whether you're a layman or an attorney, is working with Hoboken, the city, and the LDC in a way that will help facilitate the grant funding that's in hand already, and how that all works. That took a lot of machination and interfacing with the state through the Department of State and others. But largely, I think we have a great contract set up here. It provides Hoboken with the necessary flexibility and time to bring a great product to the city to consider and approve, and there's plenty of time for the city to digest that and come up with ways with the LDC to assemble the funding and the legwork, if you will, to put something together from our perspective. So it's a good contract, I think. A lot of time and energy was put into it, and the liability act sections, I know Monica and Steve might be chuckling, but we lawyered up all the liability issues pretty well in terms of the investigation side of the contract. It has a license in it where Hoboken can go in and undertake some planning and surveying and engineering and digging and poking, those kind of things, so they can have the right level of due diligence to build something of this scale. So I'm excited to get it into a signed format and get going.
And Ken, to your questions there, on the city's behalf, not only did Jim Caruso review this, prior to that it was reviewed by Donald Z. PC, which is a firm with experience in both municipal government as well as construction. So it's been vetted to take into the city's considerations as well.
Great, thank you.
Any other discussion points? Okay, so reading the authorization, it looks like there's an authorization resolution for Monument Square redevelopment project that's in front of us. There's 26 pages of it, a lot there, but looking for a motion from the floor to accept this resolution.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thank you, Samit. Thank you, Justin. I know you guys have worked your butts off on this. And again, from my standpoint as a manufacturer, but also as a developer, I understand that you definitely want a comfort level when you go to make an endeavor of this size. So kudos and thank you. Welcome to Troy.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Amit.
Next item on the agenda is Taylor Apartments.
Okay, this is a term, so this is basically a term sheet. It is an agreement for the redevelopment of the Taylor Apartments, but mostly this is an agreement between the Troy Housing Authority and Penrose Development. And the Local Development Corporation, if you remember, we got involved with issuing the RFQ that went out last year, sitting on the selection team, making sure that this wasn't a reuse of the existing Taylors, that it was a redevelopment of the entire site. And so Penrose is moving forward with this. They're actually getting, they're looking into the demolition already of the Taylor Apartments, getting some additional quotes on that. So it'd be nice to see 1 and 2 come down. But what this agreement does is it makes it basically, it's the agreement between those two entities, and it includes the Local Development Corporation as well as the development coordinator. So there's a number of times we're mentioned in here. Basically, we are the interface between the developer, the co-developer, and IDA, the city, the state, all that, the development things, any projects we're working on in the area. It just keeps us in the loop and allows us to help steer how the development occurs and make sure it's, in compliance with city's needs, with the LDC's needs. And so I actually already executed this. It doesn't commit us to anything, but I wanted to let the board know that, that we're on here and just get an approval basically for this. And again, this sets the stage now for the Troy Housing Authority and Penrose to actually, it sets the terms for them to get into their actual developers agreement.
Okay. So this has already been executed. So what are we, so the motion would be to accept what's been executed?
I guess it's a motion or recognition. Justin, do you want to weigh in? It's just a motion to approve my signature.
This is a non-binding MOU that LDC's entering into just to be a facilitator and to help this major project work through all of the levels of city approvals. There's no financial commitment or obligation of the LDC, so Steve executed that to continue to facilitate that project for the Housing Authority and Penrose. So it's coming to the board today just as an update and on a formal basis, if you want to ratify the MOU, that's totally fine.
Okay. So the motion would read that we're ratifying the MOU that is in place. Is that correct statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion items? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Northern Drive property. Steve, was Dylan going to take care of that?
Well, since I don't see him on here and he may be as an attendee who can't participate, I'm not sure. I'll just state that this is the Northern Drive property. This is one of 3 properties we took from which the city transferred to us. We do have title to this now. We are working with the developer. It got slowed down with the last 2 months. So we'll bring more at a future meeting on that, but we do now have title to that property, and we're working through the other 2 properties Federal Street property and a Congress Street property that the city also gave us. We had to get boundary descriptions of the properties before the transfers could occur. So we're working through that now as well. So that's really, there's no action item here on Northern property or Northern Drive.
Okay, any questions on the Northern Drive? Okay, no action required, so we'll move on to the Executive Director's report.
Okay, and someone's just texting me. He is on, but I think he got stuck in the other vat of people. Okay, with the COVID crisis going on right now, we have 4 outstanding loans. 3 of them are having some issues paying us right now, and I would like to request a tolling of those loans for a 6-month period. And 2 of that really goes back. 3 of these loans are loans that are current and behind. And when this whole thing started, they were all behind about a month or 2. So what I'd like to ask is that we toll this for 6 months, going back to January, and that we, during that time, prevent the or not charge any late fees, but the interest continues to accrue, and that will be rolled in at the end of the program. If any of these entities, I'll be in touch with them to see who's been a recipient of any of the stimulus money that can make these payments. So I'll go back and speak with them about that. But in the meantime, I'd like to at least, I've been contacted by 2 of them already requesting that relief.
Okay. So what I understand then, the terms would be extended 6 months, no fees for late payment, but yes, there'd be charged interest on top of that 6-month lease or rental agreement.
And capitalized at the end and added to the end of the term.
Okay, that's an action item from the board, I'm assuming, that we need to have a.
Yeah, I think so.
Did you write something up? Is that something that we can just do simply, or is?
Justin, you had a form that you were gonna use, or?
Yeah, at this point, the board can authorize this tolling as an accommodation due to the COVID-19 crisis. With loans tolling and capitalizing interest, we have a general form of tolling agreement to prepare and provide to each of the active borrowers that will allow them to capitalize interest for the 6-month period that's being approved. So once the board approves the tolling, we'll work with Steve to reach out to each of the borrowers and get them set up to take a pause, if you will, and hopefully they'll come back stronger and get their loans wrapped up.
Okay. And that would be a document that they would have to sign and present to us, correct?
Yeah, that'll be the basis for the tolling. Mary Ellen will also be working with us to make sure that we have all the accruals as of the tolling date, so they re-amortize when we come out of the tolling period.
Perfect. That's what I was looking for. Great.
Just a quick, are we putting into effect as of January 1st or 6 months starting now?
I'm gonna go retroactive to January 1st.
So then they'll have to start making payments in July?
Yes.
So is that enough time, do we think?
Well, I don't know. We can revisit it at that point.
Do we want to make it effective from 6 months from the executive order?
Monica, that was my thought as well. I think that was March 12th. That would allow them to get through September, if it makes sense, or March 1 to September 1. I defer to you folks on something that provides a good amount of breathing room.
I would say from the date of the executive order, that way we have something to tie it back to, so that it makes sense and rhymes a little bit.
I agree.
I agree on that statement too.
Yep.
So just so to summarize, we're basically going to have, so in the executive order, we're going to have 6 months tolling. There will be a document put together by Mary Ellen that'll basically define the interest, the accrued interest. There'll be no fees, and then each loan will be extended for 6 months. Is that a good summary of what discussion? Okay. We need to have a motion on that, or is,
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
any discussions? Good.
Yeah, wait, I just want to say one thing really quickly. I mean, I emailed, I think it was you, Steve, just making sure that, financially we'd be okay doing this. It seems like, other government organizations, governments in general have been really good about, forgiving, residents, whether, I mean, we're doing, forgiveness of parking fees and all, we're just trying to work with people because we're in a really difficult time right now. And I guess as a quasi-government organization, we can and should do the same to help folks out. So I'm totally on board with that. My question was just making sure that it wouldn't, adversely impact us where like 6 months from now, we're like, we're not functioning anymore. We have to shut, so I just wanted to be sure we were okay. That's all.
And it's probably the 6 months is $27,000 approximately. So we were financially fine through the end of this year. Next year we start having issues, so that point at which we will start having some financial limitations will occur probably midway through next year. So we are looking at that through the King Fuel site and other options on how to recover that operating.
Great. Yeah, I think we should do this for, for the businesses that we're supporting.
So you gentlemen, you basically stated that the city sector is doing it, the municipal sector, the private sector is also forgiving and extending loans, et cetera, et cetera. So, that's for my real estate hat here, as well. So yeah, people are having trouble. So we're highly recommending everybody apply for the PPE. And Justin, I'm sure I see your toothpicks in your eyes. So there's a couple people doing that. I get it. So, okay. So we have a first, we have a second. I don't know if we voted on this or not. I don't remember. We have not. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Old business. All right. So it's passed. Sorry. Old business. We got Franklin Alley, Steve?
Franklin Alley, just the update on that right now is that the design's ready to go. We are ready to put this out to bid probably within the next week. The MOUs with the private owners of the properties have been distributed to them. One developer, Bonaccios, already, tentatively reviewed it, and we modified it for the other two that they own. So they have them. So that's just an MOU, and then a license agreement, which will be executed probably at our next meeting once the RFP results come in and we see if we have the financial ability to do this project based on what the results of the bids are. So that's the update on Franklin Alley. County waste. This is another one. I think I had spoken with each of you individually previously. County waste leases the Portex site where the waste transfer station is. From the Local Development Corporation, and as part of that lease, it sets out the city's disposal rates, and those had expired, and the city wanted to renew those rates and lock them in, and we wanted to do it urgently before we had a change of personnel over there. So basically, we did a lease amendment, which locks in the rate of, I think, $62.21 for the city, which is a very favorable rate for them. And also we added in that the Troy Local Development Corporation, in addition to rent, gets $10,000 per year from them to help us offset costs on the roads that their trucks use, that their vehicles use. So that was executed already. I think I need an authority, adopting retroactively the signing of that lease amendment.
Those are just information only, correct?
I think I need a vote just so it's on the record that the board adopts the execution of the amendment.
Okay. All right. So, any discussion items on either of those? So Franklin Alley is not in the county waste. We need to have a vote on, right?
On county waste, you need a vote.
Yes. Okay.
A vote to authorize my executing the amendment.
Okay. Motion from the floor.
I make the motion that we, go ahead, Ken.
Go ahead. No, go ahead,
I make a
Monica.
motion- Yeah, I make a motion that we authorize the executed agreement, re-agreement.
Re-agreement, okay.
Second.
Ken, I'm assuming you're gonna second this, Ken?
Indeed.
Any discussion on it?
I just want to publicly thank Renee Panetta she's the recycling coordinator for the city of Troy. She did a lot of the legwork in the communication with County Waste and Corey over there. We do have a really good partnership with County Waste, although that site is a challenging site, but they have pledged to work with us. They realize the value of us as a host community. They're looking to better our relationship with them, but also, you know, given the times and also that solid waste fee that we have, this is a really important piece to make sure that we can control those costs for our residents. So it is very necessary, and very happy that we have it in place now.
Very good. All right, so we're on to we did authorize that, correct?
We didn't vote yet.
Okay, we didn't vote? Okay, sorry. We need, all in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah, I had to ask for coffee. Thank you.
I should
Can
just
she
add a,
I wrestled with my bed last night, guys. I woke up sideways. It was an interesting night. So,
and I should just add in, it's not on the agenda. King Fuels, we continue to speak with National Grid about that site, and depending on what happens with COVID here, they are still, you know, working with DEC and intend to move through with phase 1 of the remediation late summer. So hopefully I'll have more of an update for that at a coming meeting.
it's still in late summer, you said?
Late summer, early fall. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, depending on depending on the world.
Depending on the world, I get it. Okay, new business, Steve.
Oh, we'll skip over. I think we've had enough.
Okay, Mary Ellen, up to you for the monthly financial.
Okay. The first report is our statement of net position.
Actually,
wait.
hold on. I don't have it.
You don't
Did
have
get
it.
emailed? No.
You got TLDC financials, one of the handouts on your screen there. Do you see that?
Yeah, that's the
Oh, right. No, that's it.
statement of net position, yeah.
Okay. Am I the only one who don't have it?
Can you get it there from the?
Yeah. we'll
Andy,
try.
I pulled it right from the go-to meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead. Sorry, Mary Ellen.
That's all right. As of 3/31, our total assets stand at 3.2 million, with 565,000 of those assets in cash. Liabilities are at 1.2 million, leaving us with a fund balance of 2 million. No major changes on the statement of net position. The next report is the statement of activity for the month of March. We had a deficit of $4,300. Sources of revenue were loan interest and rent. During March, the expenses were $11,000. The largest one was in professional services. Aside from that, really no out of the ordinary expenses. Any questions? That's it, really. It was a short month. We had half of the month we worked, the other half, everybody was ducking in.
Okay.
Thank you for your work and your continued work.
I like that. Thank you. Yeah. Any discussion from Mary Ellen? Questions? Okay. So, looking for a motion to accept the monthly financial report.
I'll move it.
Motion.
Okay, second.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Last item, the election of officers. Actually, hold on. We have election of office, the annual meeting resolution, and the Paris report. They're all together.
Right. So there's one resolution for all that, and in there is an election of officers, which is blank. And I would like to, I guess, recommend the slate based on previous based on previous practice and positions, Justin Nadu as chair, Monica Krzyzewski as, Andy Ross as vice chair, Monica Krzyzewski as secretary, and Ken Zalewski as, I got that backwards, Monica as treasurer, and Mr. Zalewski as secretary. So that would be included within this resolution.
Can I decline?
I don't know if I'm, yeah, never mind. I need more.
I have a question.
Monica, or not Monica.
I have
Danae
a
does.
question on that. I've never actually served as an officer. I've always just been a board member.
The secretary, I mean, is basically, Danae does the minutes of the meeting, so she'll throw them by you and you'll review them along with all of us.
Okay.
The honorary title to go with your honorary Ken Zalewski title.
And I just noticed, who put that? I didn't put that on there. Someone typed that. I didn't type it in. I think that's Danae put that in there.
Okay. So, hey, you got to have a little levity in, on a Friday morning meetings.
So
Okay.
included in the resolution also is the, and I'm sorry, I have it in front of me. I do have it in front of me, but I didn't get to it yet. Justin, you want to walk through the resolution, or?
Yeah, I'll just provide the framework just quickly. This is a standard set of resolutions that we adopt each year, as mostly housekeeping. The cornerstone of it is the board's acceptance of the audit and the management letter that was reviewed and accepted by the Audit and Finance Committee. As part of our annual housekeeping, we also re-adopt, and this is a PAAA and Paris requirement, that we revisit our investment policy and our property disposition policy each year. We adopt them, accept the audit. We set our slate of officers, which Steve outlined for you. Congratulations, Ken, by the way. It's official. You're a secretary now.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's good. We'll put you to work, man. Yeah, we're doubling your salary too, so congratulations. The Audit and Finance Committee and Governance Committees are also established, and by practice, we've maintained those as committees of the whole. As a 5-person board, it kind of makes sense. It's for those committees just to be established by the entire board. There's an annual appointment of staff. Steve is the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer. As a note, when we approve this global block of resolutions, when it's moved and seconded, Steve will just abstain from this section because it applies to him directly. Danae is the acting secretary, as you mentioned. Additional, we have city staff that facilitate activities for the LDC. Andrew and Dylan serve in the capacities as project manager and an economic development coordinator. Steve set up as the FOIL officer. The chairperson, Justin Neto, will serve as the FOIL appeals officer. The annual report and the Paris submission, which there may be an opportunity to go through any Paris report nuances or questions the board may have if you want to do that. The budgets have been set up. Mary Ellen has already prescribed our budget and by November 1 of last year, so that's essentially set. We're ratifying that. And that's about it. It's our annual housekeeping corporate hygiene exercise. The audit came through clean with a good management letter, and that's about it. So if there's any discussion items or if Ken wants to keep declining, that's okay. Let us know.
Okay, in the packet, there's a resolution number 5 of 20, basically for the annual meeting resolutions. I'm looking for a motion from the floor to accept.
Motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, but I'm recusing myself on the portion that pertains to me.
Okay, very good. We've adopted that resolution. So on that, I am no longer running this meeting. Thank God, as you all say. My ADD.
Go for it, Justin.
So Justin, it's up to you.
Justin, you can adjourn it.
Are there any other business or items to discuss?
Welcome to the board, sir.
And welcome to the board.
Appreciate it.
And make sure you get the minutes of this meeting to me by tomorrow morning at 9.
I resign. The shortest tenure ever. Actually, Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
Sure.
Just a request on the agenda, Steve, when I guess Danae's going to, because I'm not putting the agenda together, but, you know, assuming Danae's still putting it together, if she could use the table of contents feature for Adobe when she's generating the PDF so that it's easy to move from the main agenda items to actual pieces of legislation that apply to them, like we do with the city council. So we're not scrolling through dozens of pages trying to find like, oh, where does the LDA start? Where does the Taylor apartment start? You know?
I'm sure she has that capacity, so I'll make sure she learns it if she doesn't know it already, and we will do that. Thank you for that recommendation. That's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Motion
All right.
approved.
Aye.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
Happy turkey hunting, Justin.
All right.
Miller. Hey, Miller, you there?
Yeah,
we
I'm
got-
here. Yeah,
we'll do something about that.
I'm on my couch more than in the woods these days.
Okay, hey, I'm going out tomorrow morning around 5:36, so I got 2 blinds set up.
Text me. I'll see where I'm at.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right,
Bye.
bye.
Take care. Bye.
Hey guys, good job.